The floor cracked under my boots, as the ceiling above the throne room came apart in a wave of smoke and falling stone. Queen Valith grabbed my arm with her long clawed hand and pulled me close, her eyes wide with fear I had never seen in her before. "Run," she said. Her voice trembled through the small speaker device around her neck that turned her clicks and hisses into words I could understand. "Leave me and run, Colin. There is no time." I did not move. I raised my rifle toward the broken doorway where shadows were already gathering, and I shook my head. "No, Your Highness. I am not leaving you here." She was the ruler of the Vicari hive, a nation of insect-like beings who lived beneath the surface of a planet called Duronus Prime. I had crashed there 2 years earlier, alone, my ship destroyed, my crew gone. The Vicari could have killed me the moment they found me. Instead, their queen chose to protect me. She gave me a place in her court, a purpose, and in time, something that felt like trust between two very different kinds of beings. Now her own people had turned against her. A group led by a commander named Threx believed that a queen who allowed a human to stand beside her throne was weak, unworthy of leading the hive. They had gathered soldiers in the tunnels below, and tonight, they had come to take the throne by force. Explosions rocked the outer halls. The palace guards, loyal to the queen, were falling back room by room. I could hear their voices shouting through the corridors, calling for retreat, calling for the queen to be moved to safety. Valith pulled at my sleeve again. "Colin, please. You are not like us. Your body is soft, your skin breaks easily, and you have already given more to this hive than any outsider ever has. I will not watch you fall for a war that was never yours." I looked at her, and for a moment, the noise around us seemed to fade. "It became mine the day you let me stay," I said. "You did not have to save my life. You did not have to trust a stranger who fell out of the sky. But you did, and now I am not going to stand here and let them take you from your own home." Her antennae drooped low, a sign of sadness among her people, but she nodded once, and I knew she understood there was no more time to argue. We moved through the side corridor, away from the main hall where the fighting was heaviest. The walls of the palace were made of hardened resin, smooth and curved, built by generations of workers, long before either of us existed. I had learned every turn of these halls during my time here, every hidden path the queen used to move safely between chambers. Ahead of us, a narrow passage led toward the old landing platform, where a single transport pod still waited, unused since the day I arrived. If we could reach it, we could escape into the open sky and put enough distance between us and the hive to call for help. "We are close," I told her. "Just through the east tunnel and down to the lower deck." She moved beside me, quicker than I expected despite the injury to one of her legs. Behind us, I heard footsteps, fast and many, echoing through the resin walls. Threx had sent trackers. I turned a corner too quickly and nearly ran into a small patrol blocking the tunnel ahead. 3 soldiers, armed with pulse staves, stood between us and the only path forward. Valith stepped in front of me before I could raise my rifle. "Stand aside," she said, her voice steady despite everything. "I am still your queen." One of the soldiers hesitated, but the one in front, a broad-shouldered Vicari with a scar across his shell, shook his head slowly. "Not anymore," he said. "Threx leads us now." I moved fast, pulling Valith behind me and raising my weapon just as the soldiers lunged forward. I fired once into the ceiling above them, and the resin cracked apart, sending down a shower of debris that forced them back and gave us the half-second we needed to slip past through a side opening I remembered from my early days exploring the palace. We ran, my chest burning, my legs aching from the pace, but I did not slow down. Valith kept close behind me, her breathing sharp through the translator device. "You knew that opening was there," she said between breaths. "I explored a lot when I first arrived," I admitted. "Had nothing else to do while your guards decided if they trusted me enough to let me roam freely. Even now, with danger all around us, I heard something close to a laugh escape her, quiet and short, but real." We reached the lower deck faster than I expected, the air growing cooler as we approached the open landing platform built into the side of the mountain. The transport pod sat exactly where I remembered, dust covering its surface, but its systems still active from the small solar cells built into its hull. I pulled the hatch open and helped Valeth inside, then turned back one last time to check the tunnel behind us. Shadows moved in the distance, more soldiers closing in, their voices rising with urgency, now that they realized where we were headed. I climbed into the pod and sealed the hatch, just as the first pulse blast struck the outer platform, sending sparks scattering across the metal floor. The engines groaned to life beneath us, slow at first, then steady, lifting the small craft off the platform and out into the open night sky above Duronis Prime. Below us, the palace burned in patches of orange light against the dark landscape, smoke rising into the stars. Valeth watched through the small viewport, her expression unreadable, a mix of sorrow and something like relief. "They will say I ran from my own hive," she said quietly. "You did not run," I told her. "You survived. There is a difference, and one day your people will understand that too." She turned to look at me, her large dark eyes studying my face the way she often did when she was trying to understand something new about humans. "Why did you stay, Colin? You could have taken this pod alone the moment the fighting started. No one would have blamed you." I thought about the question for a moment before answering. Where I come from, we have a saying: "You do not leave family behind." I know I am not Vicari, and I know your people have their own ways, but somewhere along these 2 years, this stopped feeling like someone else's home. It became mine too, and you became more than just a queen I was assigned to protect. She did not respond right away, but her hand reached out and rested gently over mine, her claws careful not to press too hard against my skin. "Then we will find a way to take it back," she said, determination replacing the sorrow in her voice. "Together." I nodded, watching the horizon as the pod steadied its course toward the coordinates of a distant outpost where loyal soldiers were said to be gathering. Soldiers who still believed in their queen, even after everything that had happened tonight. The journey ahead would not be easy. Threx and his followers controlled the palace now, and taking it back would mean facing them directly, this time with allies at our side, instead of running through narrow tunnels in the dark. But for the first time since the attack began, I felt something steady settle in my chest, a quiet certainty that we would make it through whatever came next. Valeth leaned back against the seat, exhaustion finally showing through the calm exterior she had kept since the throne room. I noticed the injury on her leg again, the one she had been trying to hide throughout our escape, and reached for the small medical kit stored beneath the pod's control panel. "Let me look at that," I said. She did not argue this time, allowing me to clean and wrap the wound as best I could, with the limited supplies on board. Neither of us spoke for a while after that, the silence comfortable rather than heavy, filled only by the low hum of the engines carrying us farther from the burning palace behind. As the first light of morning began to touch the edges of the sky, the outpost came into view below, a cluster of small structures built into the side of a cliff, smoke rising gently from cooking fires rather than destruction. Figures moved below, some of them already looking up toward the approaching pod. Valeth straightened in her seat, her strength returning as the outpost grew closer. "They still fly the old banner," she said, pointing toward a faded flag marking the entrance to the settlement. "That means they never stopped waiting for a chance to fight back." "Then it looks like tonight was not the end after all," I said, guiding the pod down toward the landing area. As we descended, I glanced at her one more time, this queen who had once been a stranger to me, who had given me a home when I had none, and who I now understood I would follow into whatever battle came next, not out of duty alone, but out of something far stronger that had grown quietly between us over these past 2 years. The pod touched down gently on the outpost platform, and as the hatch opened, the sound of voices rose to greet us, calling out her name with hope instead of fear. Valeth stepped out first, standing tall despite her injury, and I followed close behind her, ready to stand beside her again, this time not just as her guard, but as someone who had chosen, without hesitation, to stay.